This is a podcast which does not shy away from difficult and vulnerable topics, and we ask you to take care of yourselves when you listen. The content is of an adult nature, and we do swear at times.
Welcome to the Autistic Licence podcast. I'm Leo in London.
I'm Shauna, and I'm Carrickfergus in Northern Ireland.
We invite you to listen in on our conversations as we experiment with unmasking in an autistic space. We talk about what it means to discover we're autistic as adults, especially with established careers as therapists. We want people to know that autistic therapists exist and to broaden the conversation about neurodiversity. You're so welcome to join us, whoever you are and wherever in the world you are. We hope you'll find something of interest and connection here.
Uncle died.
Uncle P.
And he was 103.
I believe so. I can't remember if it was 102 or 103.
So I was thinking he was born possibly then in 1921, which is the same year as my grandmother was born.
No.
Actually. Yes, but she died in 1997. But it's just interesting, 1991 or 1921. So that means she would have been 103 as well.
Yes. Well, yes. Yeah. Yes. And he had many siblings. This is my maternal grandmother's brother.
Yes.
So there were quite a few of them. But he was the youngest. So it's appropriate that he went last.
Okay.
But
yes.
regardless of that, that's an age that none of the others got anywhere near reaching.
That's interesting because my granny was the oldest and her youngest sister emigrated to Australia in the days that they just took off in boats from Ireland to Australia, and I think like the 1940s or something, and she's still alive. So I imagine that she's in her 90s. I don't think she couldn't be near 100 yet because I think there was about 7 of them, and if Granny would have been 103, Nina might only be mid-90s, mid-90s. But yes, she's my last surviving great aunt.
Yes.
And she's in Australia.
I don't think there's anyone of that generation left on my dad's side. There is a woman also in Australia, actually, because my dad also had some relatives of that generation who went out to live in Australia. And I've always known her as Nan, but I think that's actually her name.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Probably need to check that. So there's some good ages on both sides.
And this is your dad's
That's
aunt.
my dad's aunt, yes.
Dad's aunt, yes. Probably pushing 100 then.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to have a little look because I haven't heard from that side of the family for a little while.
Yes. I have continued
I was going to ask. That's my next question.
I know.
I'm very excited to hear about this.
I signed up for a week's trial of Find My Past, which is another ancestry website, because I wanted to get into their records to see if I could supplement what I was already doing on Ancestry, as you do. And then I'll sign up for another free trial of another one, and then another free trial of another one, and I'll bring it all together. So this week I'm running out of time because the free trial runs out tomorrow. So I've been 2 or 3 hours every night going through Find My Past documents in this quest to find out where all these people came from. So yes, I found out some things that are lovely, some things that are a bit unsettling, but I have to bear in mind that I can't fact check everything. I'm working with 124 people, so I can't There's some of it that I haven't checked enough, so some of it might not be accurate. Some of it I know is, because I've checked it in all ways and checked marriage certificates and birth records and things like that. But other bits, it's been more that I've gone on hints and then I've kept going, and it's not completely, I'd need to go back over it again whenever I've got more time. Yeah, and then I have like some of the tree members signed the Ulster Covenant as well. But I was able to go into that and find out who signed it and who didn't.
Oh, really?
So,
wow.
yeah. Yeah. So, like, you're able to see, like, in 1912, who signed the Ulster Covenant and who didn't. Okay. And that would be the ones that signed the Ulster Covenant were obviously supporting the Crown, whereas the ones that weren't were supporting Home Rule as Ireland. So there's a mixture. And the English relatives, I found loads more of them. And and they're, you know, the interesting thing is the English ones were fishermen, largely fishermen, some agriculture, but largely fishermen. And the Irish ones worked on the land. So it's, you know, it's really interesting, you know, to see that. And with horses, I've got a lot of blacksmith and horsey kind of people in the Irish ancestry. So, yeah, it's interesting. But it's very interesting learning that and that connection to the land. I like that a lot. And yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that I'm wondering about, like what I've lost in my disconnection from the land and from like the moon and like everything that's like ancient and I just don't know about. Like I saw the moon the other night and I was like, why do I not look at you more often? And then that made me think like about all of the like the Celtic year and, you know, how each moon has a cycle of like 29 days, I think. And, you know, so then there's like 13 of those. And obviously that can be connected. Some people can connect that to their cycles as women, but not just that. Like it's just a way of marking time and how the moon is like the feminine energy, I think, and the sun is like more like masculine energy. So like, you know, it's getting darker and there's things about the sun, but then it also made me think about the moon. And then I said to Lana, how come I'm 49 and I've never thought about this stuff? Like, what's that about? Like, what is wrong with my education and my heritage and my everything that I'm only wanting to know all this stuff now?
Do you make any sense of that?
No. It's like, how come? I mean, she said, I'm not really interested in the moon, Mum.
You have to wait till she's 49.
Yeah.
There's lots of meaning there for you.
There's lots of meaning there for me, yes. I think I want to be a crone by the time that I'm 50. I think that's part of it. And I'm thinking, I'm so far away. Anyway, autism, autistic crones.
Autistic crones.
No. Maybe we will at some point if I get into it.
Do you want to say a bit about that word? Because because why such a strong? What I mean is
Ada, of course.
Yeah, all right then. Do not, whatever you do, say anything contextual about the word crone. The only reason I think that is because that has a very kind of superficial meaning, as in craggy old lady or something. You know, in if it's ever used, it's a derogatory term. Yeah, it's a derogatory term.
It's not.
In common parlance. If it does come up, it's usually not a very nice word, and that's not what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, maybe it does depend on your circles. I don't really see it as... I think it's become more... Well, maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe it hasn't become more commonplace, but I guess I see it in a wise woman kind of a way, rather than in a derogatory sense. I guess the word hag maybe feels like the derogatory version of it, but crone is more like a wise woman, and I read something that said, you can become a crone at 50, whatever you like these days. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then I realised that I'm probably pretty far off it. Yeah. But
Wisdom,
some people put queen in between. I didn't really know that. So you can do like maiden and then mother and then queen and then crone.
Okay.
So I could become a queen, which would be nice as well.
I wasn't
an
even
autistic
aware
queen.
of that. Yeah, an autistic queen. Your Majesty.
Thank you.
Deference where deference is due. I don't think I've got anything to share. That's bad.
Have you been reading yet?
Not quite.
Not
quite. No, and that's a time thing. I haven't chosen to spend that time yet. But I will be... You see, I don't think this is going to make any difference, actually. But I will be just me and the dogs for a week from Saturday. And part of me thinks, well, yes, that's the kind of time that I might sit and read a book. But to be honest, I know I've got so many other projects that are kind of pootling along that I'll be engaged with those. So I don't know what that time looks like. It feels so slow. That's what I know. So before it was just this concentration thing, staying in the page, that kind of thing, because it's just not how I take information in. So I get on very well with audiobooks, as you know, for some reason I've always got one on the go, and I can take all of that in, even when I'm doing other things. And that seems to maybe be the definition, is that I can do other things. I can't do other things when I'm reading a book. And also it just seems so slow.
Yes.
It's like, this is when I started my practice, and for many years I did all my notes with a sound recorder, and then just transcribed them once a week, because I could think faster than I can write. And I think the same is kind of the same, I think, with reading, is that if I read, I can read very fast, but then my absorption fades away. I don't take it all in as well. I'm sure that's universal. But it's very difficult for me to slow down in my reading because my brain wants to go faster.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of an incompatibility there. And I don't know that better focus will help with that, actually. But it might. I haven't tried it yet. Because it's a speed thing. It's a needing to suck the information in at a particular rate that reading doesn't keep up with. Yes. Whereas somebody reading to me, as in an audiobook, or a person reading to me, is the same speed. In fact, probably is slower than I would actually the speed of reading, but it's a different bunch of senses that deal with the incoming information, I suppose. Sense, hearing.
Yeah, it is different, whereas reading is seeing. And I think I take in information by seeing. And that, I taught, when I was studying, I taught myself from reading, not from listening. And I slow down the pace of podcasts and audiobooks because it goes too fast for me if I've only got that sense. And then that I read the subtitles on the TV because I can't keep up. But it's interesting because you've had this idea that the meds might help you to read, but it's like you're now kind of thinking, well, maybe you don't need to. Like maybe you read in a different way. You don't read with a book.
I know, but I have the desire. I really do.
Why? What's that?
I don't know what it is. I suppose it is just a comparative thing, that this is what other people do. This is what you do. And I envy you in that respect. I always, in fact, there's a practical question. So it isn't as though you have bags of time and I don't. And it's quite the opposite, really, in our day-to-day lives. How do you get through the amount... You get through books. I see you get through books. How does that actually just practically work in terms of the amount of time it takes?
I'm not getting through books, interestingly, in recent months. I'm not choosing to do that as much as I used to, but I think it is a choice for me if I just choose to do that rather than watch TV or rather than do something else. I just like the pace of it. I think it gives me permission to just sit and read, and I only need like 10 or 20 pages. I don't need like chapters and chapters and chapters.
That's an answer. That's an answer that's relevant, actually, and I don't know what I knew about that with you. So you don't sit and read for hours on end in one go. It's bursts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. This is all unknown to me. I have the desire to do it, and I'm not sure now. You're making me question whether that is just this comparative, well, other people seem to manage, why can't I?
Yes.
But it's not like I've never read. I have gone through periods where I will read a lot. It's very rare, but it's usually, as with a lot of people, I suppose, on holiday. So, and I used to, for a few years, went to India every year, and I would get through a book every 2 or 3 days. And they were all autobiographies. That was my thing. It still kind of is. But no, I got really hooked into some fiction too, actually. Mm-hmm. It's not an ability thing. It's just it's partly patience, which is what I thought might be addressed with some ADHD medication, and it might be. But yeah, the other thing is the speed of it. But I've got lots of lovely books. They're not all available. All the books that I've got, they're not all available as audiobooks anyway. Yes. It's not that. And I'm so fussy with my audiobooks as well. I can't bear it when actors read audiobooks. Yeah. If it's an autobiography or anything, actually, I just want the author to be reading it. And that's not always available. And that really puts me off because I can't kind of really believe the person somehow if it's not their own words.
Yes.
So there is a little pile of books. They're still there, and I will give it a go and see what it is. It might be, I don't know what it might be. I don't know. I've got lots of unanswered questions around it, as you can tell.
It's almost like, though, that maybe some of your ideas about what ADHD meds would do would be to actually totally change who you are. And you're kind of reflecting that, well, if I'm not a book person, I'm not a book person. That's not going to change that.
Specifically, yes. I've certainly not thought, absolutely
not in
thought
general,
that it will change me.
Some of
the behavioural stuff. And it has. Yes. Totally has. I am so much more productive. I am so much more able to focus on a thing, regardless of the priority, really. It doesn't bother me anymore whether, trying to pick apart what has the best priority, and that's paralysing. That doesn't exist anymore, or at the moment, I should say. So I feel much better at the end of the day for what I've done. And that is really, and it's making certain things, particularly, organisational things and admin-y things, an absolute pleasure to do. I'm really enjoying honing my processes, which have been wanting for years, and I just haven't ever, again, prioritised just having better ways of doing things. So and that's a phase. That's what's going on at the moment. And eventually, and it's happening quite quickly, all the various elements of how I do things through the day have much better processes behind them, and I'm enjoying that. So that also, to me, means that a stage after that will be doing more things just for their own sake, and reading might be one of them. But, of course, if I've created the ability to concentrate on things I enjoy, then really probably I will be making music more often. Why would I spend that time reading?
Yeah.
For example.
Yes. So it's the same kind of things. And I think that, all that organisational stuff, like a lot of autistic people would look on, and your organisational systems anyway were much more organised than a lot of people might have. You might have felt like there was deficits in them and things that you wanted to refine. Sure. But actually the way that things, I assume, are running now, which is even better than how it was before, is a lot more efficient than how most of us in our community run our lives. And so that is a kind of a special interest for you.
Yeah.
It's not like an absolute essential.
Oh, no, definitely
but
not.
But for you, it's a special, it's following the interest.
It's a joy.
It's following the, yes.
It is a joyful thing to find a new way of organising my task list and combining two new systems and transferring everything across, because it's going to be faster in the long run. What I'm good at like that is the things that take a long time to set up, but you only have to do once. And I know that puts a lot of people off all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy that because it's a designing a process thing, and then honing it and then building it. And then it's done, and then everything just works better after that. And I know that puts lots of people off. But that's a pleasure to me. But, you know, what I really want, beyond this notion of wanting to read lots of books, which I'm not now entirely sure what's behind that. You're making me question that in real time. Mm-hmm. Why is that necessarily a good thing? I've forgotten the beginning of that sentence. That's how well I can stay on the page.
You're going to say music, aren't you? You're going to say what you really want.
Oh, yeah, what I really want is the time. Yeah,
really
exactly. Is that, zigga, zigga, is to do things like that. So a couple of things that have happened actually this week. One that I've found, so I started a Buddhist meditation practice during lockdown.
Oh, yes, okay. I didn't know that, but I thought I didn't know you had restarted it.
I haven't
yet. Oh, you haven't yet, okay.
Tomorrow, actually.
Tomorrow?
Yes. No, there's a reason why. It's not an arbitrary date, honestly. I started by doing some online retreats and online regular meditations in groups during lockdown, because that's when it became a thing. And that suits me greatly, because obviously to travel to, say, a meditation centre or Buddhist centre, and also to be of, you know, maybe questionable physical comfort in a hall with lots of people might be nice, but also is, you know, that may be uncomfortable. That may not be something that I would enjoy. Yeah. So when it became an online thing for a couple of years, then that really allowed me to explore that. And I bought all the books. Those are all my Buddhism books there. My shrine is still in the corner. And after that, I was able, because I'd got the practice going enough that I could sustain it by myself, and I didn't need to be connected in a group. Mm-hmm. And so I did, for another probably best part of a year, have a kind of daily meditation practice.
Yes.
And then it just, as these things do with me, gradually tapered off. It wasn't then every day. I wasn't disciplined about it. I didn't want to be disciplined about it, because that went against the entire ethos of being mindful. And so there were all kinds of conflicts that came up about, and it died away, and I've wanted to get it back. But I need, as ever, some kind of stimulation, some kind of vehicle to do that. And I found out about a neurodivergent Buddhist Sangha, so a group of people who practice together. I didn't know these existed, and I've found two. So the first one that I found is, here's a Zoom link, join. It's like once a month. It's not really enough for me, but it's once a month. But then I found out about another one, which is a set group of people. It's not very big. It's online. It's specifically for neurodivergent people. And it's every week. And so I was to email one of the people who runs it, and she got back to me later that evening and said, we'd like to have a chat. Can we have a chat? So we had a little meeting on Zoom, the two of us. And it's kind of a vetting thing. They need to, you know, and that's lovely. So I'm starting that. I think it's Monday evening that I'll be trying that out. And what's really lovely about it, I haven't done it yet, so this is having been told about it, is the kind of the format of it. So this is something that I find in my practice a lot when people, you know, it's kind of received wisdom, isn't it, that mindfulness is a good thing, and that, you know, it's if you want to get rid of anxiety, then kind of emptying your mind or having some kind of guided meditation like that, something like that, is good for you. And what I've found, and I talk to people about this a lot,
is that doesn't necessarily work for autistic, ADHD, neurodivergent people, because as we've talked about on this podcast a lot over the last year, happy birthday to us, is that doing nothing is not necessarily relaxing. You know, us recharging our batteries by being at rest might be doing something. You know, and we know that that's very incongruous to a lot of holistic people. I can never remember which it is. Holistic people. And that's been kind of that sounds like they've taken some of that into account in this particular practice, where so there's a thing called sitting meditation. Sometimes it's just called like doing nothing meditation, but it is just sitting, trying to open your mind and being still, and that's really fucking hard for a lot of us. They have something called a rocking meditation. Or a stimming, meditation where you can stim. Of course you can. Of course you need to. There is something. I was talking to my therapist about this week. She's a Buddhist. There are beads that you can do to count circles of thought, meditation, breaths, all kinds of things. So that's a kind of a stim, and that's quite nice. But it's a little bit too regimented, really. It's got a purpose, and that may, for me, that was helpful. But the idea that I can, sit and rock like I am now in this chair, or have one of my, stim toys in my hands, or whatever it is, and that's actually part of it, I thought was quite beautiful. And they spend, from what I've been told, they spend kind of more time on the teaching part than the practice part, because often a group like that, the time that you spend will be kind of split between those two things, and most of it will be practice. But here it's the other way around, for the same reasons, I guess, for stimulation and for the speeds and the activity of different kinds of brains. I don't know. We will see. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I know that will make it totally possible for me to have some kind of daily practice as well in between those weekly sessions, because I'll be getting refreshed and kind of rejuvenated with other people. So that was one thing.
Whenever I am in training things, or I've got this peer group that I meet with every month, sometimes twice a month, for IFS and kind of consultation and just peer support and relationship networking. And we often do a meditative practice at the beginning. And I never can do meditation without drawing at the same time. I have to. And I suppose that's a kind of a stim, but it also, I just cannot follow anything without having something concrete on the page in front of me to do. And then that goes on too. So I'm doing training in circle facilitation, which will hopefully lead to me setting up one or more circles, and it will be like a branch of hopefully where my career might take me. And again, it kind of does. It's really interesting because I've wanted to do this training for a while, and the timing of feeling able to access it at this point is also coming along with all of the kind of wanting to get in touch with my roots and things like that. And, sitting in circle is ancient practice, and traditionally it's women, but I have no desire for it just to be women in my circles. But it's that sense that you get together and you witness each other, and it's not therapy, it's not a therapy group. You don't respond in that kind of way. You host, you hold, you contain, and people speak, and then someone else speaks, and that kind of thing. But traditionally they are opened with a meditation. And traditionally, and actually that's totally the wrong word, traditional. What does that even mean? In a lot of the... typically, they are opened with that. And then there's that sense of you go inside, you close your eyes, you open your eyes, and you make eye contact with the other people around the group. I mean, that just is not attractive for me or for... even if I don't run a neurodivergent group, there'll be some people in it who will be neurodivergent. Yes. So it's kind of thinking about what ways can I facilitate my opening section, opening stage of a circle, which will allow people to go into a more meditative, dropped-in, centred, grounded place, but not provoke that fear, because it does the opposite thing sometimes for neurodivergent people whenever they're asked, even to close your eyes. And I know you can say soften your gaze, but even that for a lot of neurodivergent people is like, here we go, you know, and they actually need their eyes open and looking around and touching things and everything like that. Yes, I've had a lot of thoughts. It's interesting because you said, I don't know what to talk about, or it felt almost like, were we like not going to find something that both of us could kind of resonate with, and it would be like, okay, you talk, then I talk.
And here we are.
Yeah, there is just something in that, and in the synergy of that and how those...
It's beautiful. And I don't know why I ever doubt that it will happen, because it always does.
I love that word, synergy. I've been reading about that as well.
You may have been age-wise and geographically slightly separated from my experience of that word, which I came to hate, because in the 80s and the early 90s, that was one of the corporate buzzwords of doing business and synergizing and finding synergy. And so, but you're right, in its pure form, in its true form, it's lovely, because it's exactly what we crave. We particularly, I think, crave and need. That's why we not just pattern-seeking animals, but we need that very specific connection, and that's what we talk about a lot.
I think that storytelling and even the concept of narrative therapy, even though I don't only work in a speaking kind of a way with people,
that's right.
that it is something. There's something about stories, and there's something about it being in a circle of like maybe 10 people. Synergy is also a word that I think describes the energy that is there when there's the healing energy, the collective energy that is there when there's more than one person. And I think something that's attractive to me, first of all, about it's accessible. It makes it more accessible than something like therapy. And some people don't have the generational relationships to have someone to hear their stories. But it's being listened to by 10 people is different than being listened to by one person, and plus as the facilitator, you are not providing all of that, obviously. It's just something about accessibility that makes it attractive, and something about the collective synergy is where that word comes in.
Yes.
That makes it.
Yes. I put my hand to my mouth for those who never get to see this video, because there was something very exciting that happened. What I want to say now, just as an interject, it's 10 seconds to 4 o'clock.
I've got a text here, and while you're talking, I am going to look and see what's happening with my
because I want
daughter.
We're nowhere near done. I am nowhere near done with this conversation.
Bus has broken down.
Oh, fuck.
Bus not starting, might have broken down.
Oh, dear.
Which does mean that perhaps children are going to be put out onto the side of a road somewhere. So I will just ask, where are you? Because she might be in school, or she might be halfway along the road. Yes.
The coldest I've ever been was about 5 years ago. We went to Estonia for a few days for a holiday, and we went to a particular place out of town. It was a cultural centre kind of thing that I really wanted to go to, and you got there by bus, and you had to wait for the bus at a bus stop. It was minus 23 that day. I've never experienced anything like it. It was fine because I had lovely warm things and thermal things, and I was very comfortable. But I thought, if your bus breaks down, if a bus is cancelled, you might die. You're stood at a bus stop at minus 23. If you've got to do that for a couple of hours,
How did you get to the bus stop? Could you not go back to the place that you came from? No.
Yes, could have done. Yes. Well,
Okay,
no,
you're
because
not
it would
gonna
have,
die.
it would have closed. Actually, no. And it was out in the country. It was out just on the edge of a forest. You've just heard back.
Started again now. The bus is going again.
Jumped the gun there.
Maybe it
Jumped
was
the
just
gun a bit there.
cold. Okay.
Talking about stories, and you were talking about how there's an absence for many people of that oral tradition, or of just having people close to you, that because of age now we're much more separated by age. And this is coming back to where we begun, that my Uncle P died a couple of days ago at 103. He's the only person in this very large family, combined family that I come from, who actually I spent a couple of hours with him telling me incredible stories about him and his place in the family and the family business. And maybe I'll go through that with you another time. But
is this the Taylors?
Yes, they're originally, that's right.
Yeah.
They're from the rag trade. And how they then built this incredible business, and how one bad decision by him.
Right. And then they bought lots of houses.
That's it. That's the one. Yes. And it was him. So it was Uncle Philip, who, persuaded them to disperse the property to fund the shops. And had that not happened, I would not be talking to you right now. Beyond my...
You know that.
I don't know that. And I like to believe that no matter what, I would have been, of course. And you know that there's a, karmic
Well, what
belief
do
in
you
that kind of thing.
imagine?
No, well, all I mean is that was a facetious comment about I wouldn't be talking to the likes of you.
The likes of commoners like me.
Exactly, not non-billionaires,
Non-billionaires,
Yeah.
But someone else would have made a stupid decision.
Yes, of course they would. Probably me.
So let's not.
Probably me 2 generations later.
Probably.
Don't let the ADHD autistic kid loose on the business.
Yeah, it's just as well. It was him. It saved everybody else.
We have had some absolutely magical communications from our listeners. And I do want to say, actually, I'm not going to name anybody right now, but people I can see are being incredibly brave with kind of potentially volunteering themselves to have some conversations with us, which we've requested. People have responded, and it's the right people. You know what I mean? In the way that you were describing it. It's the people who wouldn't, and they're telling us they're frightened. They're telling us this is a really big deal and they need to be able to change their minds if they want to. It really, really, really warms me. I have a lot of warmth for the people who are out there and listening, and the way that they're responding to us. Thank you so much, really.
Yes, and if anybody missed that episode, we are open to contact from anybody who would like to be a guest, to have a conversation with us. It will not be scripted, it will not be pre-planned. You are not required to be anything other than yourself. Yes. Thank you for listening to us. Lovely listener.
You did say it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Autistic License podcast. You can connect with us via Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at autisticlicense.com or by email at autisticlicense@gmail.com. We spell license LICENCE. We also have a Facebook community. You can search for Autistic License Siana and Leo. Siana spelled SIANA, or you can click on the link in the show notes.